There's an interesting aspect about platinum printing, which is that no two prints will look exactly the same. Which some people, think is an attribute rather than a flaw. This is an arches paper that has a good side and a bad side, which the good side is a bit smoother and less toothy. I would have to most likely get a pen. Now normally I might just use a piece of cardboard, but you can also do this. We make an outline here. Okay. Now this is actually not a bad negative because, as you can see, it's a fairly dense negative. That means it could take a long time to print, Johan.
Okay.
The printing process could be anywhere from a minute to an hour. There's another little trick we do now. I have to go past this. I'm pre-steaming the paper a little bit. And so we're going to hang the paper in here. And now this is a thing that not every platinum printer has to do or would do. I have distilled water in there, and I let this steam for a little bit and close it so the steam stays contained. And now we're going to put the emulsion together, and for that, this is actually platinum, yes. And everything happens to be on my daughter's aquarium pad that kept the fish alive, and the fish died anyway, so this thing is constantly plugged in, and it just keeps the three elements that I'm using for this a little bit warm. Okay, this is the palladium. Then, meanwhile, remember we have the paper steaming, Johan. And so now, when we're finished with this, Johan, you'll be able to do this on your own.
100%, no problem.
Yeah, it's really not.
I'll watch the video 50 times first.
No, I don't think you have to do that. Now, hopefully, that I don't have any crystals in the bottom of this thing, and then I get this thing, this pipette clogged up again. The stuff, we want to of course use it to the bitter end because it's very precious, outrageously expensive, and you will find out. So you can see you can work actually with light because platinum printing is a very slow process. It reacts very slow to light, and it really only reacts to ultraviolet light. So I have this yellow bulb here that's a buck bulb, and these are sort of, normally I don't have this one on. So it's not quite so bright. When we start coating the paper, we probably turn this one off to make your job more difficult. So now let me get one of those sheets of paper. Actually, a little bit of dampness makes the paper more absorbent. We're going to use this brush, I think. These are also very precious brushes. They are. Every platinum printer has a different method of using, applying the emulsion, and one of the things we should have also done is we should have written down here what we put on. We put 8 and 4 and 4. This is like a secret code, of course. So now we're going to pour this on, and we try to get an even coating happening. We have probably quite a lot of emulsion. We actually have a bit too much. See, I didn't need that much. The stuff spreads so beautifully with this Pikto brush. Comes from Mexico. No, I'm kidding. Comes from, where does it come from? It comes from a paint store, but it has to be pure pig bristle. It can't be because pig bristle actually has a great advantage. It repels water. That's why pigs wear this kind of hair on their bodies. When they get wet, the water doesn't cling to them, it falls away. I'm turning this around a little bit to go this, but it'll be very even, the coating. We don't want the coating to be streaky. The question was on cost of printing. So David did this experiment, and he because he was very smart, he figured out there were, say, a 10 by 10 print is what, 100 square inches? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've picked an easy number, so we can all work with this. So 100 square inches, it was probably more like 150 square inches on the 1114 sheet of paper now. And then, so he said, so you threw out $150 in the garbage when the print didn't turn out. And I was quite upset about it, but you know, what can you do? So now the paper needs to dry. Now after it's sort of dried a little bit, because I don't want it to start running into one area and get stronger. See, if I pick up this paper and hang it up now, the stuff is too liquid on it, it will start running to one corner. But this is sort of dry, more or less dry. It's not really dry, I couldn't print this. So I hang it up on my clothesline here. This is the reason for everything in here, to let it really dry. And we have potassium oxalate in here with distilled water. If it's straight potassium oxalate, it will have, without any restrainers, it would be like if you had a negative that prints well on a zero or double zero paper. I don't know if they had made papers with more than one zero. If you need a negative, if you have a negative that has a higher contrast, then you probably want a slightly softer developer. So I've added various amounts of sodium dichromate into this, in a reduced solution of sodium dichromate, to create all these different bottles with different developers. I used to have up to 12, 15 developers. They all have names, and they used to be named after either my children or my favorite movie star. This makes it more complicated. Instead of just saying 1, 2, 3 developer, I call them Sophia Loren, and then I have a Loren Bacall, and then I have a Leah here. Right now I have a Leah in my hand. But the Leah has about 32 drops of restrainer, which is the sodium dichromate in there. So it's maybe a little too harsh for this. I have also a developer that's called Wilbur, I think. This is actually a new Leah, because every time I make a new, the developers are never thrown out. You can always use them, you just pour them back into the bottle, they never go bad. Eventually they get depleted, and so then I have to make a new one, but it reacts a little different than the last one, so I call it New Leah. This is now a triple New Leah. So the whole thing makes absolutely no sense, of course, as you understand. So, but I am thinking that we are maybe, I have a Sarah developer here, I have an Evan developer that's, I sort of know them all by heart. I have a new Sophia Loren. I have a Nepali developer that, and I have a Maria Callas. And then I have a Wilbur. Now Wilbur is fairly newly mixed, and it has no restrainer in it, so it's just potassium oxalate. And I think this negative might print with it, but we'll see. So I'm going to put this one in this warm water, because it is a good idea to warm it up a little bit, at least for me. Not really kosher to do either the way I do it, because there is minuscule particles of platinum and all these metals that float through the air now, and we're breathing it, and yeah, and it's all not very good. But, so don't give this as a lesson of how to do this properly. Now I'm going to take just a snippet of this. Interesting sound. Well, not interesting. Okay, now I'm going to have to actually record what I'm doing. So we're going to say we're doing this, we're going to give it a 5-minute exposure. And then we're going to process this in Wilbur Developer, and we're just going to do a little area of this and see what happens. This is sucking the air out. This is a vacuum press, a vacuum